Let's hope this finally turns itself around. Hey everyone, welcome to Prince the Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we're here with Season 2, Episode 3 of Blood of Zeus. I'm not particularly excited for this one. And I think I made it clear in the previous reactions to the first two episodes of this season, but I want to really go into it here just in case, I wasn't getting my point across well enough, and that would be on me, by the way. I'm not trying to, blame you guys or anything. But I want to just make my point as clear as I can so that you guys at least understand fully why I haven't been enjoying this. So keep in mind, first of all, it's been a bit since I reacted to the first season. If I look at it here, give me just a second to bring this up. I believe it's been a couple years since the first season initially came out. Give me a second just to bring this up. Come on. Blood of Zeus. 3 years, according to this. The last reaction I did for Blood of Zeus, Season 1, was in May of 2021. So it's been 3 years since the first season came out. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not going to enjoy the new season. I mean, look at the newest season of Whack Fu. I enjoyed the shit out of it. In fact, I think it's the best season of the show. And that was a 5-6 year wait? So, it's not just the wait. I don't think this needed a second season. Now, I've been mentioning this in the previous reactions, but Season 1 told the story it needed to tell. It's one of those shows that didn't really leave off on much of a cliffhanger outside of the little end credit thing with Hades and all. It didn't leave the need for any more. The story that needed to be told was. It was complete. It was to the point. It was what it needed to be. Leave it off there, I'm good. But instead, they decided to do a second season. And it's okay, I wasn't really thinking this was needed, but let's see where it goes. And even outside of just whether or not it was necessary, I don't think the first two episodes here were good. As I mentioned, they both had some notable issues for me. The first episode was way too quickly paced. It was way too fast, way too much, without any room to breathe. I feel like when you have a series that is very action-packed, that is going to have, a lot of fighting, a lot of blood, a lot of gore, like this series, you want to start the season off light, because it allows the viewers to be brought back into it at a reasonable pace. If you throw them in haphazardly without any semblance of subtlety, it creates this certain level of, how do I put it? Not really confusion, but it just feels overdone. It feels like it's there's so much hitting you at once, on an episode that, again, should be pretty light comparatively. And it feels like you're just being bombarded, just being blasted unexpectedly with intensity that you were not prepared for, that you didn't want yet. I feel like a good series is going to build up to that again. I mentioned Owl House as an example in, I think, last time, in the second reaction. But there's other shows that have done this too, where it's like, oh, you have a lot of intensity, but then the next season starts and it starts off slow. It builds up to it. Everything like doesn't kick off like right away. It gives you time to process what's going on and allows you to, get into things without it like just feeling like a blast of action and information and intensity right at you in like the snap of a finger. I don't know about other people, but I don't want to have that kind of extreme like blast of intensity thrown at me at the start of a season. Again, I want to be built into it. I want the intensity to feel earned. And season 1 did this. Season 1 was fine with that. And a lot of these other shows do this too. They don't just kick off with like the most intense shit you've ever seen. It builds to it. The intense shit comes later once it's been earned, once it's been built to. And that was one of my biggest problems with episode 1. It thrust us in without any warning, and I felt overwhelmed. And I'll fully acknowledge that it could be at least partially because of my autism. See, there's a thing that a lot of autistic people go through called sensory overload. And non-autistic people can go through it too, of course, but it's very prevalent with a lot of autistic people, and it's something I don't usually face. It's something that I'm not, like, commonly finding issue with. Like, I've got a lot of people who are autistic can't go to, like, loud concerts, for example, because there's just so much sensory information being thrust at you at those kind of events. I can handle those fine. There's a lot of times where like people with autism will even have to like wear special headphones out in public because they can't handle the sensory overload of being in public, basically. And I've never had that problem. I've never struggled with this kind of thing outside of like these rare exceptions every now and again where it's like, oh, there's just so much being thrust at me at once that it's actually getting to me. And it's different for everyone who has autism. Like different people face symptoms differently. So me not being as affected by it while other people are is perfectly natural and perfectly like realistic for autistic people to face. Some face certain things harder than others. It's a case-by-case basis, and no two cases of autism are completely the same. For me, I can usually handle that stuff pretty well. But there's certain examples. And it's not just shows where this can happen, but it's movies too. I did a movie to a reaction, I did a reaction to a movie not that long ago called Natural Born Killers. It was absolutely sensory overload. The way that movie was shot and directed and edited and everything was so actively unenjoyable to me because of sensory overload. And that's what episode 1 of this season gave to me. I was just completely overwhelmed and I couldn't handle it. So I was hoping season 2 would be better with that it would calm the fuck down and allow me to enjoy it a lot more. It calmed down, but unfortunately it went too far with that. And I believe I said this last time, I kind of wish it was like in the middle of where these two extremes met. Because while episode 1 was way too overwhelming with way too much information and intensity at once, episode 2 was fucking boring. It was just a big nothing sandwich. It was mostly exposition. It was unenjoyable to watch. It was so slowly paced comparatively. And it felt like it went in literally the opposite extreme as the first one. And it's like that's not what I meant when I said to calm the fuck down. I want it to be calmer, but I don't want it to be dead. You know? And it's just it feels like there's like no level of balance to this season so far because of that. And it's a problem, if I'm being honest. But then there's also the fact that I really don't like that they brought back Seraphim. And I mean, I get it and I understand why they did. I understand like the reasoning for it because of, Greek mythology and the underworld and everything. But this kind of goes into one of my other complaints with the fact that I don't believe this needed a second season, because I figured that the story was done. It didn't need to be continued. So why are we just directly continuing the story with this character who should be done with? There is no reason to explore this character further. There is like nothing necessary or interesting about it. And it's just, it feels really forced. Like there's other things they could have done for an entire Persephone Hades kind of situation like this. Because that part I'm actually kind of interested in. That part is probably the only good thing about this season so far. The entire idea of Hades and Persephone trying to break this deal and trying to make it so that, they don't have to be separated half of the year. She doesn't have to be separated from her kids. And he doesn't have to be stuck in, hell, literal hell. It's a lot more interesting than having Seraphim be back at all. And I understand that they're trying to have it to where Seraphim is like kind of a key for Hades to try and do this. But I would rather just not be the case. Have it be just someone else. There's so many characters in Greek mythology. You could make someone up and it would be better than having Seraphim be back again. You take a character whose story is already dead. You're just beating a dead horse at this point. You don't need to do this. Have him rot in Tartarus. There's nothing more to do with him. And I'm just like really disinterested in the story because of that. And there's this entire thing about this like artifact or whatever it was that Zeus wanted to have hidden and was given to Gaia, and that's like also part of the key to getting Hades and Persephone free. And it's just like it's throwing in so many different aspects to this plot as well. And I need a reason to care. I think that's what it comes down to at this point. I feel like the first episode, what I feel like should have been done was the aftermath of the big battle and everything, not showing the big battle again. The aftermath of it and showing our main characters and all of his allies and stuff, showing them reuniting and reconvening and discussing things, kind of give us a chance to, like, after multiple years, get reacquainted with them. Like, you have, like, what, 8 episodes for this season? We didn't get reacquainted with these characters at all. You know what it acts like we were supposed to have done? It acts like we were supposed to have rewatched the entire first season. So we could get reacquainted with every single little thing once again. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with rewatching a show and whatnot, but I don't feel like you should have to do that. The show itself should be able to reintroduce characters. I've seen so many shows where second seasons do this, and it can feel natural. If the worry was, oh, it wouldn't feel natural to reintroduce them, it'd make more sense to just continue on as if everyone already knows who every single person is. It's like, that actually feels less natural to me. Because it's like, in real life, a lot of times you can forget people, especially if it's been years. Sometimes you might need a reminder. I just really don't like what they've done with this season. For the first 2 episodes, at least. And I know there's some people who would say, like, oh, you're not giving enough of a chance. 2 episodes is enough to judge it. It's like, bitch, when this season is 8 episodes long, 2 episodes is absolutely enough to judge it. When a series or a season of a series has, like, less than 10 episodes, you kind of have to judge it within the first couple. It's like that's kind of a necessity. Because you have so little time to establish it, so little time to get things going. And you absolutely need to do that within a reasonable amount of time. And for a short season like this, it needs to be within the first couple episodes. But even despite all of that, I decided I'm going to give it one more chance. I'm going to be fair. I'll give it a third episode. Maybe the first couple are just, shaking off the dust from this series having been gone for years. I'll give it one more chance. But this episode absolutely has to impress me. Not just be fair. Not just be okay. It has to actively, like, improve. To a degree where I find a reason to continue. I find the motivation and interest in continuing. And I want to be able to do that. I say it all the time. I want to love every show I react to. And every season of every show I react to. But I'm only going to give it so much of a chance. I'm not going to force myself to watch something, to sit through something on the hope that it gets better, and force myself to sit through slop until it does. I'm not going to do that. I don't think that's fair to you guys or to myself. So we're giving it one last chance. Hopefully this episode improves on things notably. Because if it doesn't, we're going to move on. I'm just letting you know. But like I said, it's not just pacing issues and stuff that were my problem. It's also the path the story's going down. And the thing is, it's not the only, like, new season of a show I'm reacting to right now. Because I'm also doing, like, season 3 of OKKO on this same day. And it's like, I'm loving that so far. And that one started off the season by reintroducing us to things. It handled that well in that regard. So, yeah, we're gonna get on with this. Sorry these pre-thoughts are so goddamn long. I needed to rant. I really, really needed to rant. Sometimes you just gotta do so. Sometimes you you gotta let it all out. You know what I mean? So let us get on with this. Let us hope for the absolute best. We'll see how it goes. But let's get started. Cutting in here real quick to remind you of all the awesome content we have on the channel. Between Monday and Friday, we have a plethora of awesome series reactions with 2 on Wednesday. We also have movie reactions every Saturday and Sunday. I do pre-record them during the week, but upload them on the weekend. And we have gaming content over on the Secondary Princess of Gaming channel. We have Baldur's Gate 3 every day, Horizon Forbidden West every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. We have Beyond Two Souls on Wednesday and Sunday, and Poppy Playtime on Saturday. Don't forget to click the link in the description below to follow it to today's reaction. We redirect due to copyright. It's just what we got to do here on the channel. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video if you want to see more awesome content such as this. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Let's get to today's reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, if this episode were reworked a little bit to basically show as well, like, Hades first interacting with Seraphim and everything, to show how that came into being and everything, this would have been, like, a vastly better first episode for this season. All the backstory with Hades and Persephone, with Seraphim and his love interest. I can't think of her name. And even with the setups for our main character, like going after the sword and everything. I can't remember his name either. I apologize for that. But all of that, if there's like just a little bit more to add in, like when Hades first started talking, the stuff where with Hades first starting to talk to Seraphim and trying to offer him the deal and all. I don't think that would be entirely possible with the runtime unless you cut out like a lot of stuff or cut down on a lot of stuff with either of the backstories. But if it were possible to include the backstories, the stuff with our main character, and, well, obviously, in order to have the backstories, the stuff with Hades first trying to get Seraphim on his side in the first place, then I feel this would have been a great first episode. But the problem is getting it cut down. It's like you would have to cut out, like, I feel important stuff. Or at the very least, like, you would have to shave it down, and that could probably lead it to it being less memorable and lesser of quality. And the problem is, I feel like the best option would be to cut back on Seraphim's backstory stuff with his girl, because I still kind of stand by the idea that he shouldn't really be in this. Like, this episode, like, the backstory and everything and how it connected to Hades' backstory with Persephone, I will admit it was well handled. But it didn't give me a reason to feel like he should still be involved in all of this. It didn't give me a reason to think that Seraphim shouldn't just be, suffering in Tartarus. It still feels like his story should be over. We don't need this. So, like, the best option at that point would be, like, to just cut out his side of things entirely. It would still be the best case scenario to cut away, like, that entire part of the storyline. Have this just focus on Hades and his backstory with Persephone, add more to that. Um, and maybe add a little more to the stuff at the beginning with our main, who's supposed to be our main character. Though in these first 3 episodes, we've barely had any screen time with him. Um, and it just feels like that would have been a like vastly superior first episode than what we got, because it makes no sense, like, for what we got, and I still don't think it works. And this would have been a much nicer, a much clearer way to, like, bring us into things. You have, like, this is the first episode, then maybe the second episode you can go back and show, like, Hades doing what he was trying to do with the shades, trying to get the stuff during the war and all. I think that would have been better in terms of pacing, in terms of setup, in terms of, like, prepping this entire second season. It's like, it's so astounding to me how much better this would have been as the first episode. But again, you would either need to change things around significantly or completely cut out Seraphim's part. Which could be done still. It absolutely could be. Hell, you could even make it so that Seraphim isn't even, like, mentioned until the second episode at that point. But the problem is, this isn't the first episode, and I think that's, like, what we really need to address. This was easily the best episode of these first 3. Like, it's not even that close. But it was still not good enough, because the entire thing with having Seraphim still be a major part of the story and everything feels completely unnecessary and like wasted time that could be put towards other stuff. And everything just, honestly getting fucked up would have been more impactful without that. I just really, really am not a fan of how they've executed this. And again, I'm saying this with saying at the same time that this episode was far better than the first 2. But the problem is that it doesn't feel like it works as a third episode. It doesn't feel like this should be happening at this point in the season. And it just, because of that, feels very out of place and out of time for the season and its events. It's the best in terms of the storytelling, in terms of the interest value. And yeah, a lot of that does have to do with a lot of the episode being the backstory with Hades and Persephone, which I believe I even stated in the previous episode reaction was like the best part of what we've gotten so far. Because the Hades Persephone stuff is, better than most things with Greek mythology. So it's not that it was like completely fucked up in terms of execution. It's that it was timed extremely poorly to where it kind of ruins the overall vibe and impact that this should have. If this were the first episode, and again, the changes I mentioned were made, this would have been fantastic. And it would have been a great lead-in for this season. But instead, it follows up two episodes that weren't good for various reasons. Again, in my opinion, of course. And it feels entirely out of place because of it. In terms of its timing within the season, in terms of its inclusion of certain elements and whatnot. It's it it's basically like wasted potential. That's a way to look at it. It's wasted potential for what could have been amazing, but because of the execution of things, ended up coming across as subpar. And I really hate to say that. Because, like I said, I did like the first season. Quite a bit, actually. And there's a lot here, there's a lot of potential here of things that could be really, really great. But it just never, like, chooses to handle it in, again, in my opinion, in the right way. And I understand that's just my opinion. I understand, like, you don't need to agree with me, and if you view it differently, if you think that this was placed right and all, that's fine. But I just feel very let down. Ironically, by a show I don't think should have had a second season in the first place, but, that also doesn't help matters. Um, it's just one of those cases where I feel like this is one of those things that wasn't wanted and wasn't needed. One of those sequel seasons, I guess you could call it, that not necessarily misunderstands what the first season was about. I'm not going to say anything dumb like that. But it sort of just tries to force the show into having a second season without really giving it enough thought in terms of how to organize it. And it's just disappointing to me. It's sad. And I honestly just wish that this didn't receive a second season at all. I wish it could remain as just one season and, leave off on a good note. But the fact of the matter is, it did get a second season. And so it's like, if we're going to have it, I at least want it to be good. And again, if you really like this, if you like how this has turned out and everything, that's fine. I have no problem with that. You're allowed to like what you like. I am not going to tell you you're wrong. It's all subjective. It's all based on opinion. This is just my opinion. This is what I think after having watched these episodes. I don't think it's been good enough to want to continue. I don't have the desire to want to continue this. And it's something I didn't want to say today. If I'm being honest, the past couple days have been harsh on me for a couple reasons. And I really didn't want to start off today because this is the first thing I'm recording. I'm recording this before OKKO. I didn't want to start off today with a letdown after the other stuff I've been through these past couple days. But here we are. And like I said in the pre-thoughts, I'm not one who's gonna force myself to sit through stuff that I'm not enjoying reacting to or watching just to get to some stuff that might be really good later on. Like, this might continue to get better. It might. But I don't want to force myself to sit through what could possibly be more irritating, annoying bullcrap just to get to something that I might enjoy. I don't think that's fair on me or fair on you because it'll absolutely affect my reactions. And that's why I drop shows. Like, I know there's a lot of reactors out there who don't like to do that, and most of the time they don't. The vast majority of shows they'll react to, they go to the finish with, even if it ends up being something they're not particularly fond of. And they do it for various reasons, I'm sure, but definitely one of them would have to be not wanting to leave a series off in the middle and all. And I get that. But like I said, I'm not going to force myself to keep reacting to something if I'm not enjoying it. And hell, maybe I'll end up giving this a second chance somewhere down the line. It's possible. I've done that with various shows. And for a number of shows, it's even ended up being exceptionally good that I did. I mean, looking at both Owl House and Amphibia as great examples of that. So maybe I will come back to this at some point in the future. It's very possible. But for now, at least, I don't want to. I don't want to react to it. And that's really all I've got to say about it. I don't want to spend my time recording reactions to this when I'm not enjoying it right now. Maybe I'll get to it in the future again. Maybe someone will even request it as a reward in the future. That's always possible. But for now, I am choosing to drop it. And I wasn't sure if this was going to happen. I didn't necessarily have the wheel ready. And mind you, I could probably get it ready, but you know, I think I want to do something that I don't usually do. I want to do something that I want to just have fun with. I'm just in that. Maybe it's because of these past couple days, but also maybe because of my thoughts on this season here of Blood of Zeus. But I want something that I can just have a lot of fun with and not have to worry about too much else. And one thing that I feel like I don't do as often, at least not anymore. I have done it in the past. But I feel like most of what I react to, is older stuff. You know what I mean? Most of what I react to is older stuff that has been out for a while. Like, even if it's somewhat newer, it's still probably like months since it debuted and everything a lot of time. There's always exceptions to this, of course. There's always exceptions, but I want to react to something that's coming out. I feel like outside of like One Piece, which I'm not entirely counting because One Piece is a special case, and I'm not even fully caught up with that right now, to be fair. But with how long One Piece has been going on, that's a little different. But I think I want to get to something that's currently airing. Again, this is something I don't do a lot of. Like, I've done that, like, even when, like, MLP was coming out, like, the Gen 5 stuff, it's like it all came out in one batch, and so I was reacting to it, like, weeks and weeks after it, like, had already been out. So it's still not even quite the same thing with that, because of a lot of these shows putting out, the entire seasons and whatnot because of this stupid binge model crap. But I want to react to something that is coming out weekly, and that I'm going to be pretty much on point with in terms of release. And hell, the Wednesday slots are Connie's choice slots. Technically, it doesn't have to be something that is just something I randomly choose. It can be anything, as long as it's my choice. I mean, technically, mostly everything's my choice to get to, to be fair. Although I've been choosing a lot of stuff with the wheel lately, but technically I'm choosing like which of these donation rewards to get to at a time, which first impression to get back to. Outside of when I do the wheel and stuff, then it's more randomized. But the point is, it is a Connie's choice, so I can still choose something that's, I guess, technically not like not one of those other types of reactions. So something currently airing, something that's a little more fun, a little more I wouldn't say lighthearted necessarily, but just a little more like entertainingly natured. Something that is, like I said, currently airing. I'm repeating myself, I think. Um, and something that I can be on the ball with as it comes out. I think that we're going to, in the place of Blood of Zeus Season 2, we're going to react to Don Da Don. I really, really enjoyed the first episode of Don Da Don. Actually, especially on rewatches. I've seen it with like other people's reactions and stuff since reacting to the first episode last week. And I've actually enjoyed it a lot more than I did on my first watching. And I've been wanting to get two more. And I was racking my brain trying to figure out how to do it. And then this just happened, and I feel like, oh, I could do this. So I know it's like it's some first impressions, but it's still technically a Connie's Choice series. Um, we're just kind of like bringing it to the forefront here because I want to get to this. It's currently airing, so I'll be on the up and up and won't have to avoid spoilers much. We'll be pretty good, I think, with that. Now, I think the episodes come out on Fridays, so there will be a little bit of a wait, unfortunately, unless I pre-recorded them, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. If there's a little bit of a wait, there's a little bit of a wait. I can handle avoiding spoilers for that amount of time, comparative to even longer. But yeah, we'll talk more about my thoughts regarding the first episode and all again in the next video for that. But for now, uh, let me know your thoughts on this third episode of Blood of Zeus Season 2. I do apologize to anyone who really likes this show. I know at least one of you does. It's just, it hasn't been doing it for me. And again, maybe I'll give it a second chance in the future. Maybe someone will request it in the future. Anything can happen. It might be back, but for now, it's not. For now, we're just going to move past it. That being said, thank you as always so much for tuning in. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.